footnote to that is to talk a little bit about the snow removal. For those that are still experiencing issues around snow removal, feel free to continue to use the 4500 number or contact my office if there's any hot spots or areas where you get snow mountains that are maybe causing public safety issues or intersections or inhibiting pedestrians or those that have difficulty walking. So we can get on the Public Works Department to address that. So, and also to touch base quickly on Space Savers. The South End has conducted a pilot program this year to opt out of the Space Saver program. I don't know, does anyone here live in the South End or have you been over the South End? Their streets are the worst. And I'll just add my own commentary on it, is that there's a pride of ownership when you get to shovel out a spot and you get to keep it for, say, 48 hours. The mayor's extended the 48-hour policy just because we've had 100 inches of snow in such a short period of time. So it's sort of extended for the foreseeable future until maybe some more of the snow and ice melt. But what we're seeing is over the South End, particularly those that have four-wheel drives, they go to their vehicle and they just kind of brush off the snow off the windshield, and then they get their four-wheel drive and they just drive out of it, leaving it basically in the same condition that they found it, as opposed to if you have a Space Saver and you're there and you put elbows and shoulders behind the shovel and you're getting it down to the concrete. There's a pride of ownership with sanding and salting around it. We're seeing that the streets in those neighborhoods are more clear, than those that are trying to pilot out of it. So I just add that based on some first-hand experience, having been around the city as your citywide city council. So, and with that, I just want to say thank you to the North End. It's been a great community for me, and I'm happy to serve you as an at-large member of the city council. I have a staff member who lives in the North End and keeps me abreast of those very important, critical issues. So I want to talk maybe just about a couple things, something that we worked on last year and something we're working on this year. Moving forward is working with Councilor Lamartina's office, as he's the chair of Planning and Economic Development, is with respect to development in the city, specifically when it comes to the Zoning Board of Appeals. When a matter gets deferred, when there's community opposition to a project and the developer moves up on Zoning Board of Appeal day, and then the day of the hearing decides to take a deferral in an effort to work out an agreement or a concession with the community or a direct abutter. The policy as it stands now is that that direct abutter no longer gets any further notice. And what we're starting to see, what we saw in pockets of the city, is those unsuspecting neighbors thinking that the matter was resolved, that there'd be some concession or there'd be more community process or another community meeting by which that the height and the density and the parking requirements would be resolved. That was not happening. And then when that direct abutter or the community organization was least suspecting it, maybe during the summer months or during the holidays, the petitioner would move forward and that proposal would be granted. And then the direct abutter or the community would, hey, well, how did that happen? And it had this sort of this stench of the fix was in, or that the cake was already baked. There was sort of a duping there. So what we're requiring, or we're calling for the Zoning Board of Appeals to require that the petitioner, when the petitioner defers for whatever reason, that the onus now becomes the petitioner's responsibility to notify the direct abutters, so the direct abutters, the community organizations have input and say up until that decision is made. That's not how it currently works right now. And so that's one thing that we're working closely with Councilor Lamartina and I and my colleagues in the council are adamant that notice is important for a number of different reasons. One is we work for the community and the residents, and that they should have input and say as to what happens in their own neighborhood. But two is that there's the developers can tend to, or at least some of them, sort of slide around it, or they get a little cute and they don't engage in that discussion, or they don't come back to the community meeting, or they don't follow up with community process because they technically really at that point don't have to, because they feel that they've exhausted the community process. And so there is no discussion of negotiations or concessions, or if it breaks down, there's no formal notice that now goes to the direct abutter or the aggrieved party. And so we're looking to try to reverse that, and it creates more transparency to the process, and it gets sort of that stigma or that stench of that the fix was in or that the cake was baked. In many instances, even elected officials who work in that building don't even know about the next date until you get the notice 24 hours beforehand, and you look down, and then my staff start making phone calls, reaching out to community folks saying, hey, do you know this is on tomorrow? And you'd be shocked at the percentage of people that, no, I don't. I thought that was deferred, I thought that was put off. Well, yeah, it was put off, but didn't they call you, or wasn't there another community meeting, or Didn't the petitioner or the proponent or the developer, didn't they reach out to you? No, 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 no. Well, it's on for tomorrow, so if you want to have your voice heard, you got to take the day off of work or work the phones and get folks in your neighborhood to come in. So that should never be the case, and that's how it's been working. So the pressure is now on the BRA and the Zoning Board of Appeals to adjust that. Another issue of mine, it's to some degree a pet peeve, but it's a public safety issue. It's also a revenue, I guess it's a revenue loss the way it's working now, is the handicap parking fraud and abuse that exists in the city. A lot of folks, particularly suburbanites, come to the city with a handicap placard because it's a free day to park. They don't have to park in the garage. They don't have to jockey around like the rest of us meter maids and going out to feed the meter. They get to park in a metered spot free of charge for the entire day. So what we're seeing is able-bodied citizens, because they got a note from their doctor or alleging that they have an injury or a disability, they very easily get a placard. Every one of us could get one very quickly. Just get a doctor's note. And so they're coming into town and they're parking in the downtown, they're parking in the north end, they're parking in my neighborhood all day long, free of charge, exempt from the resident parking, exempt from the meters. So what we're looking to do is we're working with the Disabilities Commission, we're working with the new Commissioner, Gina Findacker, who's doing a phenomenal job, and trying to put new guidelines in there. And we're seeing that this is actually a trend across the country. People are taking full advantage of it. And the sad part about it is that the person that actually needs it or has dexterity or mobility issues is now punished because of the fraud and the abuse that exists with able bodies. I saw one just the other day in town, pulls up on a spot, a gentleman gets out, jumps out of the car, runs to the back of the car. Not one bag, not two bags, 3 bags. You know, keys, bags on the shoulder, goes to the front of the car, he's leaning in, he's doing this, and I'm holding. So, and all of that, and he doesn't have, and so on to boot, he doesn't have to feed the meter. So we did sort of a quick assessment with the transportation department. They're estimating over $3.5 million in lost revenue to that. That's $3.5 million that can go into our schools, go into our transportation department, go into our public works, go to beautify the greenway, fix lots of issues in our city, or at least maybe put some more police officers on the street. So real money that is lost because of scammers that, because again, because they're capable and they're able-bodied folks. So we want to take another look at that. And one of the potential solutions that's coming up is that they get to park in a metered spot free of charge for the entire day, where we only have the 2-hour limit. So we're talking about either A, requiring them to feed the meter, B, giving them 2 free hours, or maybe giving them 3 free hours. But gone will be the days of you can come from Needham or Lexington or Andover and come down to any neighborhood or any street, particularly in the business district, and just park your car for the day, get there early and kind of scamper out of your car and get to your office, and no one questions you about what's wrong with you or what's your ailment or what's your disability. And so we think that's going to go a long way of restoring confidence and respect to the program, and to make sure that it's there and available for those that really need it, and not folks that are just trying to get a downtown parking space for their office. Something else we did, we put a home rule petition, we put it into the mayor's package to allow police officers. As you know, there's a mandatory retirement for Boston police officers at the age of 65. We get very able-bodied, capable, experienced men and women in the Boston Police Department through no fault of their own other than they turn the age of 65, but very much want to continue to contribute to our city and allow them to participate in a detail program. Hundreds of details go unmanned every year in the city of Boston because we don't have the capacity to fill those details. And details meaning the construction details or the special event details, or the garden, the Fenway Park. So we have an opportunity to allow those trained officers, where we get the citizens, it costs the taxpayer and the citizens nothing, and we get added value to their training and experience on the street. And we also, obviously, those that need the detail are the ones that pay for the detail. So it's a net gain for the city. Conversely, we just will have a detail that will go unmanned. So I figured there was a creative way to kind of capture the time and the talent and the energy of men and women on our police force who are very capable to go on. So this would expand the age that they can do that, so they have to retire from the Boston Police Department at 65, but they can enter into this detail program up to the age of 68. So they get an additional 3 years to service our communities and to participate and to use their training experience in that. And so also want to take the opportunity maybe to kind of just do an extension on the kitchen table conversations that some folks may remember from a few years ago, to kind of take your temperature on a couple of things, either by a show of hands or a nod. But in general, given that the 100 inches of snow that has fallen in terms of the city's ability to kind of to respect obviously the north end, but also to the city, the folks think that they did a good job, a decent job, a fair job, a poor job overall. Some people think it was poor. Some people think it was fair. Some people thought it was good. Some people think it was excellent or great.
I think anytime you get that amount of snow, it's kind of near impossible. So given those restraints, I thought our north end looked pretty good.
Okay. Show of hands, I know that there's more information that we need to gather, and it's sort of in the infancy stages, but the train has left the station. Olympics, just a yay or nay off the top of your head. How many people here support the Olympics coming to Boston, just by a quick show of hands? And how many people are opposed to it? And how many people would just like to get some more information and they have not made up their mind yet? Okay. That's an interesting one. And then with respect to Faneuil Hall, so there's a new owner of Faneuil Hall that's come in, and so we come to accustomed to the push carts and the vendors, and there's now a discrepancy between the new owner and the long-term stakeholders, if you will, and the vendors of the Faneuil Hall, in terms of one, the number that will be able to remain into their location. So I'm not sure whether or not people have heard about that or not, but I think there's some real value in sort of keeping sort of the tradition, if you will, or those folks that were there during those very difficult times, as opposed to now sort of pushing them out. And there's also going to be a hotel component to Faneuil Hall. So the folks generally like the idea of being able to keep the push carts or some of the vendors, the long-term stakeholders at Faneuil Hall.
Can I talk about the hotel component? Is the new hotel being built on the Blackstone Bluff? Is that what you have in mind?
Yes, it's on the backside, yeah. So it's going to be on that street, on the backside, closer to the custom house.
This is another hotel. This is separate.
Yes, this hotel will be separate. It will be part of, it will be a boutique hotel, part of Faneuil Hall on the, I guess it will be on the
State Street?
East, yeah, it will be on the east side of
Faneuil. South Market.
Correct. Right, on the south market side, east of the building, the very rear of the building, closest to the north end. So something to be cognizant of. And one other thing, cop sync. So there's technology out there that allows our police officers, in the event of an emergency or an active shooter at a school, to be able to have that officer's computer, have it come right up on their dashboard computer as to the immediate call, but also as to where the active shooter is. And it would allow the teachers to have either a laptop or, what do you call it? An iPad, laptop, or whatever device that they're using, to have it in their office. So in the event, say, hypothetically, this is a third grade class, and we hear that there's a shooting outside in the hallway, that teacher can hit one button and then immediately, move her students into the rear of the classroom or into a closet or somewhere, or before the school was in lockdown. And as that police officer is approaching that school, has the most accurate, up-to-date information as to, what floor the active shooter was on, what side of the school, is it on the east zone, is it in the gym, is it in a third grade class? Because 80% of first responders actually get shot, showing up to school shootings. So it's a pretty staggering statistic. They either shot or they're injured, reporting to an active shooter situation at a school. So again, technology that's out there that we hope that Boston Police Department will adopt and be able to take advantage of for the safety and protection of our students, but also to talk about expanding it, given what just recently happened in the Brigham Women's Hospital, things like that, where you have people running out of the building, but our first responders are running into the building, and then having that information as to where to access the building or where the last known location of the active shooter was, will go a long way in saving lives. Because what we do know is that the moment that the police get on scene, one of three things happen. The gunman actually turns the gun on him or herself. The gunman now forgets about sort of the cause that they're involved with, and they now turn their attention onto law enforcement, either whether they're engaging law enforcement or they're sort of narrowing their choices because they sort of feel a sense that the end could be coming near, as opposed to having a whole full classroom of kids, for example. We have an opportunity, if we get the officer to that classroom as quickly as possible, or to that location of that school as quickly as possible, the mindset of the shooter changes significantly the minute that he's faced or she's faced with law enforcement. So there's a critical component to it, whereas we're cutting down time of the response, we're cutting down time of searching through the school to find out where the active shooter is. We're also cutting down the time that the perpetrator or the shooter has to start to pick and choose his or her victims. So again, those are things that are going to come forward. We've had a hearing on them. We're going to be working with the Boston Police Department. And we also have a school superintendent search that's underway. Starts this evening. We're going to head over there. They have 4 finalists. So we're going to be going through the next 4 nights tonight, along with the next 3 nights, engaging in community process and meeting with folks. So if there's something that you would like to see in your next school superintendent, if there's things that you think that we should be doing as a city with respect to the Boston public school system, now is sort of your chance to ask those questions of the potential finalists for that position, and also to give your thoughts to local elected officials like myself, members of the school committee, and also the mayor's office. So with that, I know you have other folks on the agenda, but any questions of me, fire away.
Councilor Flaherty, thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks,
Appreciate it. A lot of good information here. Just a quick follow-up on your handicap fraud initiative. Is that crackdown just on meter spots, or are you guys looking at fraud that goes on within the neighborhood, such as the south end or the north end?
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure all of us, here see the same thing that you see with, someone parking in a resident handicap spot, jumping out, with bags and everything. Is there any effort or thoughts on trying to crack down on that type of fraud?
Yes. So what we're doing is we're sort of doing this overall comprehensive approach. You touched on it in one of your reports with respect to your conversations, or you're working with the transportation department about some of the changes that they're talking about bringing. So things that we've done in my neighborhood or other neighborhoods is extend the resident parking program. We've got a pilot program going on right now in South Boston that's extending the resident parking program through the weekend. I know that some have that, some don't. We're trying it for the first time, just given the parking crisis that's over there and the volume of folks, residents, students, or all their college friends that come over literally Thursday night and don't leave sometimes till Monday morning. And we're hoping to address that. And I think in the first couple weeks of the program, I think they issued over 2,000 violations just on the weekends without resident parking. We're talking about extending the hours. We're talking about, with Gina Vandaki and also the Disabilities Commission, about the ride share program and having spaces in neighborhoods be strictly dedicated to those ride share or car share programs. We've been banging heads with the bike czar, who I tend to think just kind of plops these bike kiosks down just about everywhere. I happen to sort of be someone that defends and sticks up for the average motorist that has a family and depends on a car, and in some instances has 2 cars in their household. And I don't think everyone's taking a bike, and I don't think everyone has a skateboard, and I don't think everyone takes public transportation. So I want to make sure that for those, particularly for the business areas, that they're capable of transacting business and having people pull up and have a spot available to go in and to buy an item or to get their dry cleaning done, whatever, as opposed to sort of having this mindset of that so parking is like a bad thing. And so they're sort of reworking not only the car share and the ride share and the bike kiosk, and also taking a look at resident parking, extending hours. We're working with the MBTA right now in some neighborhoods to eliminate some of their stops. MBTA in some neighborhoods have bus stops at every single street corner. And we're saying, why can't they have it every other or every third? That potentially will free up some additional parking. Again, you're seeing that in some more of the densely populated neighborhoods where you literally have a bus stop at almost every street corner both ways. So things like that, working with the MBTA to create more parking options for residents. But it's a crackdown of just how we do things. And for the first time in almost 20 years, we actually have a fresh set of eyes on transportation, working with the Disability Commissioner as well, who does a great job, and who is in a wheelchair and has dexterity issues, but is also a supporter that, A, she's aware of the fraud and the abuse, and B, she thinks that they should also have to pay the meter. So we're working closely to try to find something that makes sense on all fronts, as well as even the space saving program, which South End has the pilot program, but doesn't really seem to be resonating in other neighborhoods with all the snow, because I think there is real value to pride of ownership of being able to dig up your car. So it's not just going to be one item, and we're going to sort of look at a number of different things that are happening throughout the city and find out. And then finally, the Airbnb. I know that I talked to your state representative last night, who was attending a hearing tonight. And I know Councilor Lamentino is also having it's March 2nd. So it's going to be hearing March 2nd at 6:30 at the Copley Library to talk about the Airbnb in terms of trying to find out whether or not we should regulate it, what conditions we put on it, and whether or not there should be any fees levied that would be to the beneficiary of the city. So probably almost like kind of that Uber debate that's happening with respect to regulation and versus the taxi industry, and same thing with hotels and lodging, whether or not we should have it. So keep an eye on that one. I know that both of your district representatives, your state representative has led the effort up at the Beacon Hill, and I know that Sal Martin, my colleague, is leading efforts on the council to try to make some sense and to be fair and reasonable as to what this is about. So lots of good stuff happening. Any questions you have, or if you want to be part of those discussions, or if you want an update from either the Transportation Department or the Disabilities Commissioner, I'm happy to let them know that they can come over here at some point and give you folks an update as well. Any other questions?
Two very short questions.
By the way.
If something gets deferred, isn't there a time frame before they can reapply for that?
No, if you get denied with or without prejudice, so if you get denied with prejudice, you're locked out for a year. If you get denied without prejudice, then you can bring it back. Okay. And then you got to get back into the pecking order. So, yeah, a deferral is not a denial. A deferral is you decided to right before you just say you're docket number 12, and they say docket number 12, and you say I'd like to defer, and they don't say why. It's like, no, I did defer it. So you're taking yourself off that agenda in an effort to try to maybe work something out with a community leader or a direct abutter or an elected official, and then the onus technically is sort of on you to engage in those negotiations. What happens is sometimes those negotiations don't happen, and you're not responsible to re-notify everyone, and particularly the direct abutters. So direct abutters have no idea when the next date is, and then you get the date in the mail, and you don't say anything about it. You show up and it says all in favor, say aye, and there's no one opposed to your project because they didn't know anything about it. So it looks as though you've done your homework.
Handicap plaques.
Sure.
It's a great thing you're trying to do,
Yeah.
like it. But how can you make that system work? If the doctor's given it to you,
Right.
you have to change some kind, or you have to make some kind of.
Right.
Am I correct?
Yeah, so it has to happen at the state, and we're seeing this happen across the country, but where it's going to make a difference is requiring them. So right now, very easy to get a handicap placard. Any one of us can get in here. We can get someone that's competing for the Olympics, right? And we'll be able to get one. Just have a doctor, I got my arm, my elbow, my leg, my foot, my breath. Sure, done, right? But why it gets abused because they don't have to feed the meter. Right, so you're not looking out your office window for the meter days, right? You're not doing this 2-hour thing.
How do you know
if someone's handicapped or not?
After you pass
It's a
this
subjective
training,
statement. Right.
You have to stop the doctor from giving them notes.
Yeah, well, they're gonna have a list of them. There's a doctor. I think East Boston. I want to say it's like Meridian Street. I think has the most handicapped placards on one street in the entire city. But where you're going to crack down on the abuse is that you're not going to be able to prevent someone from getting it. You're going to go to your doctor. You're going to get it. But where the city's going to win is if you require them to feed the meter.
Okay.
Because if you feed the meter, if you're from Lexington, right, hypothetically, you're from Lexington and you're driving every day, right, with your handicap placard, and you're not handicapped, and you can park on High Street, Franklin Street, Federal Street, you name it, South Street, free of charge, all day long. You can go in at 6, stay till 10 o'clock at night. You'll never get an orange ticket on your windshield. You'll have no trouble. All of a sudden now, you got to pay the meter. You're taking the train because you can't. You know how it works. You can't stay on the same block for more than 2 hours. So you don't even think like, oh, I'm going to talk to my boss, and every 2 hours he's going to let me go out and go on a coffee break, and I'm going to move my car. Good luck with that one, right? Because it's hard enough to find a spot as it is. So that's where it's not necessarily about preventing someone from getting the placard. It's if you do have the placard, you have to play by the rules like everybody else. And folks like our commissioner, who again is in a wheelchair and has dexterity issues, she firmly believes that that's fair, right? They want to be treated like everyone else, then they ought to be feeding the meter. We're talking about either a 2-hour free meter, but then you have to stop paying, or we extend it so that if you have the handicap placard, you get to stay there for 3 hours. But gone will be the day that you could be there for 6, 8, 10 hours, taking a spot off of a neighborhood street, not only for the meter, but also for the resident parking.
How about the resident parking?
Yeah, same.
That doesn't have.
Same applies, yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't have any.
Exactly.
So
Same
how-
thing. They can do the same thing. We're talking about the same thing. If you come in there,
They'll be ticketed.
you'll be, yeah, you could probably still give you like a 2 or 3 hour period, but then you're on. Yeah, it's the best scam going for those that either don't live in the city or don't want to pay for parking. It's just get a doctor's note, get the placard, and you got a spot. Any neighborhood, particularly in the downtown and business district, every day, all day, for the donut. And we're on the receiving end of that because we're out
What she says is a little
3.5.
different. The resident parking sticker. I personally know of a guy that has 5 of them.
Right. 5 resident, oh, you're talking about more than just, you addressed it in your comments in terms of, the city's talking about cracking down on how many residential stickers you can have for your own household.
No,
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 I think-
no.
Yeah, you're talking about a handicap
Yeah,
placard just
yeah.
coming into the north end and parking in a resident spot.
Parking in a handicap spot is not meter, like we have spots in the north end. that
You have
aren't
the
metered.
dedicated handicap spots, yeah. Same thing. Yeah,
If you don't have a neighborhood sticker, you can still park in the spot,
if you have a handicap placard.
but only for 2 or 3 hours.
Right,
That's what you guys are
right,
asking.
yeah. And so we would want
We'll have to
to,
educate the meetings.
we want turnover. We want turnover for able bodies, we want turnover for
About that.
handicap.
We're handicapped by.
You can park in it, you can. The handicap parking placard, you're basically exempt. You're exempt from paying the meter, you're exempt from the resident sticker,
I got
you
a
just get to
ticket.
park.
I went
No one
to
messes
City Hall and appealed it and I lost.
on a handicap sticker or a,
Handicap parking,
Yeah.
parking of residents.
with a north end resident sticker or
No,
not.
no sticker.
So that's what it is.
Handicap person cannot park at a residence.
But you can park in a resident spot that isn't, that allow, handicap parking in a resident
Handicap
spot. Yeah.
parking is different.
Right, you don't need to be from the north
I
end.
just got a
parking.
$100 ticket.
Right, and you see them over near the, garden, there's a whole row of them. Right over there, there's a clinic over there. Those are the dedicated handicap spots, you know, which, that used to be, the dedicated handicap spots used to be kind of the norm, but driven by the abuse, they had to expand the program because everyone had a placard and there wasn't enough handicap spots. So they opened up the meter spots for folks with a handicap placard, and they didn't have to pay the meter. So we lose over 3.5 revenue today that we know about, that we're not capturing. And it's, for the most part, it's people that are able-bodied that are in. So it's, again, work in progress, lots of issues. It has to happen at the state level, it has to be a state law that requires you. So whatever we're doing in the city has to jive with what they're doing in Beacon Hill. What we're asking, working with the Disability Commission and the statewide organization, is that to take another look at this, to recognize that it's not fair, that it's not working, that people that really need that space are not getting them because the folks that don't need that space are abusing it because they either don't want to take the train, or they don't want to carpool, or they don't want to park in the garage downtown. And so how do we make some sense of it? You can't prevent someone from getting it, to your point. It's a subjective state. That's between you and your doctor. I'm not getting in the middle of that. But what I am saying is if you do have that placard, then I want you to pay the meter just like everybody else. And the difference is, do you get 2 free hours and then you get to pay for 2 hours? Do you have to pay for the 2 hours? Or do you maybe have to pay for 3 hours? You have to stay for 3 hours. But at some point, you and your car are gonna have to move just like everybody else because we know that the abuse exists. And for those that really need it for the entire day, you go to the dedicated handicap spots, which is what they were meant for initially, but because they were overrun with the fraud and abuse, they had to open up. So it's a kind of a maybe way to bring it back to what the program was originally intended for. So.
Are you going to police the first 2 or 3 hours if you're given a, like a voucher, so to speak?
No, meter maids have it, so there's a new system on their handhelds. So it's called overtime. So there's meter maids that's their focus, is they're going up and down the streets, and when they're entering the data, they're entering your plate. So my plate's 903, so you go in and they see me on North Bennett Street, and they sort of come down, they get 903, and meter maid makes their rounds, and then they come back again, and I'm still there based on their machine. They know that I've overstayed my time. So
What about if they move to a different spot?
can't be on the same street, in the same block. So that's how that works too. So that whole rat race chasing around, that gig's gonna be up for people real fast, and then you have to take the train, or get a ride, or pay for parking.
What do you do with those?
So it's gonna free up a lot of spaces for folks in the neighborhood, and free up a lot of, it's gonna create more turnover for our local businesses, and for the downtown folks, that people are coming in to transact business, but they can't find a spot. And they don't wanna, be paying on the lake for the garage spots. So again, working with multiple parties, either it's multi-pronged, it has to happen from the city, has to be pushed from the city, has to happen at the state level to make that change, to require them to pay the meter like everybody else. The minute that happens, I think it's going to be like a big vacuum, because it's no longer, the scam's up, you know, and you're going to start getting orange tickets in a good volume. You're going to think twice about it, and you're going to end up taking the train to work from suburban communities.
Any last questions?
My one question is the icicles that are coming down, and so it's over the pond of Thatcher and Fifth Street. That will have on the river.
Sure. Yeah. So I talked to John Meany from the Inspection Services Department. Anywhere you see that, so can you just give me those addresses? So we have code enforcement, and Inspection Services will come out. In some instances, they might even send out a building inspector. So yeah, let us know when there's a situation.
I lost Street the other day, but one went down in the windshield.
Smashed the windshield, yeah.
And actually, it's police and self-class today. So they're using some SUV and self-class.
The icicle smashed through, yeah. They had that on Broadway near the bank. There's an abandoned building, but it's a building that's boarded up, that's going to be recently renovated, and there was parts of the building that were coming down on the street as people were on the neighbors. So we sent over building inspectors, so they can put the rope around it, they can cite the property owner. So there's a number of things. So if you see something, just call us, give us Marie, or give me an office call. We'll get ISD and John Meany right on a different grade coming up. Yeah. So that's the first step in it, yellow tape, and then depending on the situation, their assessment, either the building inspector will come out and tag the property, and then the building owner has a responsibility, or if there's a way that Inspection Services can handle it with code enforcement, they'll do that as well. Yeah, but don't let them, there's going to be a lot of them, but don't let them grow. We get another ice snow, you're going to start to see them with snow and ice come off the roof. So I appreciate your time and attention, and as always, just call my office if you can do anything.